To create the switch hat, you will need a measuring tape for checking gauge, a pair of scissors, one stitch marker, and a 6.5mm crochet hook. The yarn that I'm going to be using is called Juicy Couture Luxe Velour Sparkle, and this is the colorway Coral Haze. This is a bulky weight 5 yarn that's velvety and soft. It used to be carried exclusively by Joann's, so I'm hoping that Michaels will pick up this yarn line like they did with Joann's other brands such as Big Twist. But if not, you can still find this yarn on Etsy, or you can look for alternatives in blanket yarn or velvet type yarns. To keep that sparkle, you can check out Bernat's Blanket Sparkle or Hobbii, Hobbii. They have a yarn called Honey Bunny Shine. So let's get started. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that this pattern is written for multiple sizes, all the way from baby to adult large, so if you'd like to follow along with a specific size, you can find that free pattern on my blog linked below. You can also purchase an ad-free PDF version with color-coded sizes and picture tutorial, which is also linked down below. So we're going to start by creating a magic circle. If you don't know this technique, I have a helpful tutorial on my blog and linked down below. So I'm going to begin by single crocheting 3 times into that magic circle. Once we've worked those 3 single crochets, just take the tail and pull to close that magic circle. So when we're working, it's a little bit difficult to see the stitches with this fuzzy yarn, but you can use both feel and sight to kind of figure out where those stitches are. So we're going to go right into the first stitch and single crochet 2 times. Don't forget to mark that first stitch with a stitch marker. Go back into that same stitch and work a second single crochet. And single crochet 2 times in the next 2 stitches. So you should have 6 stitches total. And in the next round, we're just going to single crochet into each of those 6 stitches. So don't forget to mark the first stitch of your round with your stitch marker. So at the end of that round, you should have 6 stitches. And these first few rounds are kind of difficult because they're really small, but it's going to get easier very quickly. So for the next round, you're going to single crochet 2 times into that first stitch. Don't forget to go back and place your stitch marker in the first stitch. And then you're going to single crochet 1 time in the next stitch. Single crochet 2 times in the next stitch. And 1 time in the next stitch. And for those last 2 stitches of the round, single crochet 2 times in the next stitch and 1 time in the next stitch. So you should end up with 9 stitches total. And for the next round, we're just going to single crochet in each of those stitches. For the next round, we're going to single crochet 2 times in that first stitch. And then single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Then single crochet 2 times in the next stitch. Single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And just repeat this pattern around, where we're single crocheting 2 times in the next stitch, and then single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So you should end up with 12 stitches, and in the next round we're just going to single crochet in each stitch around. So for the next round, we are going to single crochet 2 times in the first stitch. Then we're going to replace that stitch marker in the first stitch. Then single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And then single crochet 2 times in the next stitch. single crochet in the next 3 stitches, single crochet 2 times in the next stitch, and single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So you should have 15 stitches, and the next round we are just going to single crochet in each of those 15 stitches. Don't forget to replace your stitch marker. So for the next round, we are going to work 2 single crochets into the first stitch, replace that stitch marker, and then single crochet in the next 4 stitches. Then single crochet 2 times in the next stitch, single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then single crochet 2 times in the next stitch. So we're just working that pattern around, which I hope you are noticing a pattern kind of forming at this point. So when we work 2 single crochet stitches into the same stitch, that's what's called an increase. So we are alternating increase rounds with rounds of just single crochet. The increase rounds are increasing the circumference of our hat, while the single crochet rounds are increasing the height of our hat. And that's what's going to create this cone shape that we're looking for. So each increase round, the number of stitches between each increase increases by 1. So we started out with just a round of only increases way down here. The next increase round, we worked 1 stitch between each increase. The next one, 2 stitches between each increase. The next one, 3, and now 4. So we're just going to continue working this pattern for the entire hat. So after this increase round of 4 stitches between each increase, we'll work a round of single crochet. The next increase round, there will be 5 stitches between each increase, then 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on, until the height of your hat has reached the proper height for your size. So continue working the hat like this and check the free pattern for the size that you're working on to know how many rows that you need to make. So I've just completed round 12 and I'm going to stop right here and check my gauge. I know most of us don't like to sit down and make a square gauge swatch, so I've made it a little bit easier by giving you instructions to do it this way. So 12 rounds of the pattern should measure about 10 centimeters. So we're right on track there. And the diameter should measure about 8 centimeters. So remember, the diameter is a line going straight across a circle. So we can squish our hat flat and just measure along the brim like this. And that's 8 centimeters. One more thing I like to mention is that as we're working this hat up, the way the pattern is written, and it's written this way for simplicity, it would be kind of a jumble of a pattern if I had written it differently. But the way it's written is we're stacking our increases on top of each other. And once you work up several rounds, you'll start to see 3 peaks where those increases are getting stacked up onto each other. So to prevent those peaks from forming, what you can do is just vary the number of stitches you start with. So instead of working our increase right into that first stitch, what you're going to do is work a couple single crochets. So this round for me, I have 6 single crochets between each increase. So I'm just going to make it easy. I'm going to work half of that, so 3 single crochets. Then I'm going to work an increase. Then I'll work into my next 6 stitches. Then I'll work my increase. I'll work into the next 6 stitches. So I'll work that last increase, and then you should be left with 3 stitches, which I am, so I'll work those 3 stitches. So we have our 3 increases, each with 6 stitches spaced between them, but we didn't start out with an increase, so those increases are not all stacked on top of each other as they were from the last round. So just keep that in mind. If you start getting those peaks, occasionally vary the number of stitches you're starting with so that those increases get placed elsewhere. The other thing is that we've been working on the outside, the inside of this hat. The right side of this hat is actually the inside. So once you get a couple rounds completed, you can just pop that hat inside out. And now when we're working, we are crocheting with our work facing towards us, which is the right side. All right, I'll meet you back when you've worked up the rest of the hat. So I've completed all the rounds for the hat, and we are now going to start on the brim. So the brim has a few differences from the actual hat. So the hat we worked into this conical shape, but the brim we want to lay flat. So we're going to switch to working the regular formula for a crochet circle, which is increasing 6 times per round. 2 more differences are for the first round of the brim, we're going to be working in the front loop only of the stitches. So when you look at your stitch, you have 2 loops, and you typically work into both of those loops. The loop farthest away from you is the back loop, and the loop closest to you is the front loop. So we're going to be only working in the front loops of those stitches. Also, the brim is going to be worked in half double crochet stitches, just because I think that gives the brim a little bit more structure to kind of stand up than a single crochet stitch would. So we're going to begin by slip stitching in the front loop only of that first stitch, chain 1, and then half double crochet right back into that same stitch. And now for this child size, I'm going to continue front loop only half double crocheting in the next 9 stitches for a total of 10 stitches before our first increase. But be sure to check the pattern because each size ends with a different number of stitches around. So the number of increases in your brim will be different for each size. Or sorry, the number of stitches between each increase will be different for each size. So I've worked up those 10 half double crochet stitches. Now I'm going to front loop only half double crochet 2 times in the next stitch. Then front loop only half double crochet in the next 10 stitches before my next increase. So just follow the pattern for your size to work around for the brim. And you can see now too how working in the front loops only for this very first round just kind of pops the brim forward and allows it to lay how we want it to, just like that. Alright, so I'm going to work my last front loop only half double crochet of the round. Then I'm going to slip stitch into both loops of the first stitch of the round. Chain 1. And now for all subsequent rounds of the brim, we're not working front loop only half double crochet, we're only working regular half double crochets. So I'm going to chain 1 and then half double crochet right into that same stitch. And so our last round for this child size, we had 10 half double crochets in between each increase. So now we will have 11. So I'm going to work up 10 more half double crochets. So that was 10 more half double crochets for a total of 11. And now I'm going to half double crochet 2 times into the next stitch and just continue working that stitch pattern around. And that's how you're going to work the brim. So check the pattern because each size has a different number of rounds in the brim and each size has a different number of stitches between each increase. But that is pretty much it. I will meet you back after the brim to show you how to weave in ends and do an invisible join. Alright, so the last thing we're going to do on the hat is slip stitch into that first stitch of the round, and then we're going to fasten off using an invisible join. So when you do an invisible join, you're just going to pull that yarn straight through and grab a tapestry needle, thread a tapestry needle, to do an invisible join, we're going to skip that first stitch, go into the second stitch from front to back through both loops, and pull. Then we're going to go back from where the yarn is originating, which is right here, and in that stitch we're going front to back into the back loop only of that stitch and pull. So what that does is it creates a false stitch that looks completely seamless along the edge of our hat. Then you're just going to weave in these ends if you need a refresher on that. I'm actually probably going to tie a little knot here just so to make this super secure. Okay, to weave in your ends, you're going to go one direction, about an inch. So with this really fluffy yarn, I think it's going to be easier to pick up stitches in one direction like this for about an inch. You can flip your work over to make sure you don't see the needle poking through and pull. Then you're going to go back through the same direction for another inch. And then you're going to go a third time back the opposite direction for again about an inch. You can then fasten off, and that end should be super secure. And that completes the hat. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.